Let's talk about today's Senate hearing into the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. And specifically, let's scratch below the surface of some of the questions that we heard asked today by Senator Ted Cancun Cruz. Because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So I watched some, but not all, of today's Senate hearing into the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. You know, the Donald Trump inspired and incited attack on the U.S. Capitol. And the purpose of today's Senate hearing was to explore possible security failures by the various law enforcement agencies, possible failures of intelligence, possible failures of information sharing between and among the various law enforcement agencies. And mind you, there's plenty to investigate. For example, I think we'd like to know why the federal law enforcement agencies that were out in force this past summer during the Black Lives Matter protests, right? They had law enforcement agencies right down to the Bureau of Prisons riot squad, which in my 30 years as a federal prosecutor, I rarely saw deployed. But boy, they pulled out all the stops with all federal law enforcement agencies during the BLM protests, but they were all conspicuously absent from the January 6th attack on the Capitol. I mean, it was really just the Capitol Police, and that's the one law enforcement agency that is under the control of the legislative branch, not the executive branch. And the only other law enforcement agency that was really there in force was the local D.C. cops, the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. You know, where were all of the other federal law enforcement agencies? Where was the FBI and the ATF and the DEA and the United States Park Police? Where were the U.S. Marshals? Where was the Federal Protective Service? And where was the Federal Bureau of Prisons riot squad? Yeah, those are questions that I think we need answers to. Another question that I think we need an answer to is, why was the Pentagon so resistant to deploying the National Guard even as the attack on the Capitol was underway? So, yeah, we need some answers, and these hearings will continue. But I want to focus on just one thing that I saw today, and that was the participation in today's Senate hearing by Senator Ted Cancun Cruz. Because Senator Cruz was asking questions of the law enforcement officers who were testifying. There was the former head of the Capitol Police. There was the former Sergeant at Arms for the House of Representatives, the former Sergeant at Arms for the Senate, the current Chief of Police of the Metropolitan Police Department, MPD, Robert Conti, a good man. Ted Cruz was asking them questions that were critical of their efforts to secure the Capitol on January 6th. Ted Cruz wanted to know why you didn't do a better job of repelling the attack against the Capitol. You know, the attack that I, Senator Cruz, helped inspire by supporting the big lie. You know, Ted Cruz, in a very real sense, was one of the architects of the big lie, together with, you know, guys like Josh Hawley and some of these other Republicans, and of course Donald Trump and Don Jr. and Rudy Giuliani. They created the big lie that instilled such anger and animosity in the American people, because Ted Cruz and Hawley and Trump and others lied to the American people about the election being rigged. They lied to the American people about their vote being stolen from them, about their president being taken from them fraudulently by the members of Congress, by the people that were in that building. And then Ted Cruz asks those kind of questions. You know, I only wish somebody could administer sodium pentothal, truth serum to Ted Cruz before asking his questions, because then we might hear Ted Cruz ask something like, so members of law enforcement, we appreciate you coming to testify here before this Senate committee today about the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, and I'd like to know why you didn't do a better job protecting me and the other members of Congress against the attack that, in a very real sense, I helped create. Because I was one of the architects of the big lie, and I convinced the American people, those willing to be convinced, that the election was rigged and it was stolen from them. Their president was taken from them. So in a very real sense, I whipped them up into that frenzy that resulted in the attack on January 6th. And I want to know why you all didn't do a better job protecting me against the angry mob that I helped create. You know, that would be like Ted Cruz robbing a bank and then criticizing the bank for having poor security. Hypocrisy, thy name is Ted Cruz. And how is it that we are here in our politics? And folks, as always, thank you for tuning into these daily videos. You may have seen that Team Justice, which is a group that we have over on Patreon, patreon.com, we've authored a letter to all 50 state attorneys general urging each one to open an investigation into the avoidable and the preventable coronavirus deaths that resulted from Donald Trump's mismanagement of the pandemic. And if you'd like to sign that letter, we would urge you to please read it and consider signing it if you agree with the sentiments in that letter. You can find the letter a couple of places. If you go over to patreon.com, and if you choose to sign up and become a patron, you can access it there, but you need not go over to Patreon. You can look on my Twitter timeline. It is my pinned tweet, a copy of the letter to all 50 state attorneys general and the link where you can go and you can sign. It takes all of 60 seconds to access the link and just provide your name, an email address, which we don't share with anybody, and the state of which you are a resident, and your zip code. We don't ask for your address or any other identifying information. So please have a look. On Twitter, it's at GlennKirshner2. That's my handle, I think we call it. And it is the pinned tweet at the very top of my timeline. Or you can go over to patreon.com. If you choose to support our all-volunteer efforts over on Patreon, I'll send you some Team Justice stickers and a personal handwritten note of thanks. As always, folks, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.